In this video, we are looking at the difference between OneNote 2016 and the Windows 10 version of OneNote. If you've installed OneNote 2016, then you'll see this icon. Now I'll go into my Start menu, I'll press the Windows key, and I'll type in OneNote. You'll see that we have both apps on this laptop. So we've got the 2016 app, which I use most of the time, and we've also got the default or the native OneNote app, which is provided with all Windows 10 laptops. It's more than likely your students are using this second OneNote app, and there's a few key differences there. So what I'll do is I'll open both of these and I'll compare the two using the same class notebook. So first of all, I'm going to open OneNote 2016, and I'm in a collaboration space for a shared class notebook here. I'll open the same class notebook now in the other version of this app, and that's the Windows 10, or what we call the native OneNote app. So again, pressing the Windows key, typing OneNote, and I'm going into this version, the native one. Now at the moment I am using the same class notebook across two different apps, and so there may be syncing issues. But so that I can quickly move between both apps, I'll leave them open at the same time. Right, so I'll go into the same space, and that's our collaboration space. So this is a space where students from two classes are signing a project guestbook, and it's my first attempt to get the students to be able to type in a space that I've nominated for them, and also I'm asking that they present some goals so that they are typing information about themselves, hopefully projecting a good digital profile to other students. At the moment you can see that the page itself looks the same. It's the same font, and if I jump into the 2016 version, the page is the same as well. There is one obvious difference though, and that is of course the layout of the page. So if I go to our Windows 10 version, you can see that we have our notebooks and our sections and our pages laid out on the left hand side here. So this is, I think, easier for organisation. It's nice to see all of these tabs at the same time. However, they do take up a bit of screen space. And if you are teaching from the 2016 version of the app where the tabs are across the top, I do know that students in the younger years find this a bit confusing, because you might be saying, okay, go into the collaboration space tab at the top, and then in their app there is no top tab. It's over here on the left hand side. So that's a definite difference. The way that we access the section groups, the sections and the pages is very different from the Windows 10 to the 2016 version of the app, and it's important to note that. Now while I'm here, you'll also see that we've got some key differences and a much more collapsed version of the menus. So if I click on Home, that's a much more minified version with a different layout of the home options. And let's compare home from this app to the other one. You can see there's so much more going on in the 2016 version of the app, and that's why so many of us continue to use it. Let's look at Insert. Here we've got table, file, printout, attachment, spreadsheet, screen clipping, and so on. I won't read them all out. Let's compare those insert functions to the Windows 10 version of the app. So here we go, going into here. Let's look at Insert. So we've got table, again they're a bit more minified. We've got file and PDF. It doesn't say printout, you'll note. You get to make that option when you drag the files in. You've got pictures, online videos, links, etc. You've got some other additions though, which are quite good. You've got the ability to include forms and researcher functions as well. Let's look at the draw options. Now here we see quite a similar layout, but again it's much more minified. If I click on the plus, then you can see a very different interface here. If we look at the draw options, however, for the 2016 app, you'll notice in the draw tab that we're in now that we've got the same icons, we just don't have the text underneath them. So draw with touch, if we jump back over here, you'll see draw with touch is this one here, and so on. Now the ruler is quite useful, and what this does is give you an overlay that you can move around. You need to be using your finger for this, and so this is something that only is supported, I believe, by having a touch screen. And can you notice the protractor? moving in the middle as well, so it's giving us an angle. So that's quite useful if you're doing any mathematical measurements or you need to find angles. That's our ruler. Now when I hit Maths, this is a panel that's quite a recent addition, where you write your equation in ink or you type it, you select it by drawing that lasso around it, and then when you tap this button it can give you solutions, plots and so forth. And there's other settings that you can tweak as well. The Maths function, this one, if we go into our 2016, you've got ink to text and ink to math, but this is a different kind of function, as you can see. So there are definitely some key differences between the two. Now when we go into History, Review and View, let's look at these now. We've only got View. And in here you've got some of the other things that you were looking for before. For instance, Hide Authors sits under the View tab. And if we go here, Hide Authors is in the History tab. So the 2016 version of the app is much more broken apart, and personally I find it easier to work with these tabs because they're not combined as much as they are in the Windows 10 version. When it comes to ruling lines and page colors, if we go back here, we will find that type of information. Page colors, rule lines in the View tab, as well as zooming functions and so on. And so that's where you'll find them. There's the zoom functions that I mentioned before, and it goes on from there. Now, let's look at the Class Notebook tab. This is quite similar, even though it's much more collapsed again. So if I go to our Class Notebook tab for 2016, we've got distributing pages, we've got distributing sections or new section groups, distribute content library, which I'll come back to, reviewing student work, and these are the buttons we use to create and manage our class notebooks. Let's now compare them to the Windows 10 version. Distribute page, new section. You will see that there's no new section group. So that's a difference. However, I've been told that this is on the way. Copy to content library is the new wording for distribute content library. And that's the ability for us to copy content from one library to another if we're moving from one class notebook to the next. You'll see these are all the same, and these are basically hyperlinks that take you to the online wizards that we use to create class notebooks, add and remove students, teachers, and so on. So if I go back into here, they should be quite familiar with you. You'll notice that we've got a table tab that's been added, and that pops up whenever you are inside a table that you create in the Windows 10 version of OneNote. So when we go into here, you can see you've got some quite useful drop-down options. If we go into this app, however, the 2016, when I click on the table area again, we've got what's called a layout tab, and it's much the same. What I do like, however, about the 2016 app, more so than the Windows 10 one, is I can right click on the table and I've got all of those functions available in this context menu. If I try to do the same here, right click, you can see that I don't have those table options here. The only way I can tweak and modify my table is to go through this drop down. So which is better? It's entirely up to you, and there's certainly some reviewing options and some of these functionality options that I think are better still in the 2016 version of the app, but you can use both depending on your own needs. If you are trying to get your students into using a class notebook, I strongly recommend that you use this version, the Windows 10 version, because the layout will be familiar with them. If you're trying to teach younger students from a different layout, then that may obviously cause some confusion in your room. So just be aware of that.